Hello. Now, I'm going to be talking to you about the extent of government responsibility here. And to do that, I'm going to go back to my video about the lorry drivers who were stuck on their way into Dover when the French government, and apologies because I said the French, I meant the French government. Somebody pointed out that I seem to be having a go at the French generally. No, I'm sure the French generally are only too happy to have lorries bringing their wine and products to Britain, including cars, by the way. So I meant the French government. And if I gave the other impression, please, any French people watching this, my apologies to you. Right, so I was talking about the French government suddenly stopping the lorries from coming, and that was a bit of a shock, and it caught the British government on the back foot, and, well, it was probably the intention. I'm quite sure that was the intention. However, that's not what I'm going to be talking about too much now. First of all, I'm going to say those Christmas decorations might not stay up till 12th night, but they're certainly going to stay up till at least past New Year's Day. Right, so that's my background for the next few days. And also I want to tell you that the video I made about the Sikhs providing meals for stranded lorry drivers, I had some background music there, which a lot of people found offensively loud. I do apologise. I've re-uploaded that without the music. If you're interested in watching it, then it's going to go up as well. Interestingly, it wasn't that loud here on my computer, but I assumed it was something to do with the compression program, that videos get compressed when they get uploaded. Obviously, it had an effect on the sound, a minor effect, but it was enough to bother a lot of people. It's sort of interesting. I shouldn't have tried that anyway. I once consulted a filmmaker. I asked him, he's a friend of mine, I asked him about audio, you know, or organising the audio, because I know sometimes my voice gets rather loud and then it gets a bit softer, and well, I'm not a professional broadcaster, am I? And I haven't had that training to keep my voice even. I do try to remember, and I'm getting better, I think, now, but it does happen. And I asked him about normalizing the videos so there weren't so many peaks and troughs, and I said, how do you do it? And he said, oh, I never do that. I send it off to a professional audio specialist on my film. So it's obvious that audio is far more complicated than I am qualified to deal with. All right, that's that out the way. Now, let's get to the Sikhs providing meals for lorry drivers. It wasn't just the Sikhs. It turns out the Salvation Army did a load of runs. A local football club. Hang on, I have this on a, yeah, here we are. This is a BBC site, so they say charities send food. The Sikhs, of course, provided a lot of food. A lot of French people came across, which, of course, this is complete nonsense, isn't it? The fact that the French were allowed to go back and forth and the lorries weren't. It says something about the way the French government was approaching this. Some European nationals living in England have come to the aid of their compatriots. A Facebook page for Hungarians in the UK helped to organise food donations. Another Sikh Gurdwara organised food. The Salvation Army organised food. The Ramsgate Football Club delivered 200 pizzas. And Ashford International Truck Stop said it was providing 1,000 food bags. So Toby Howe, Senior Highways Manager at Kent County Council, so this is a council, not a government thing. For those on the M20, there have been facilities, toilets have been provided, and we have had really good support from communities around the place to provide food. So, you see, these were all smaller organisations who got off their arses and started doing something. Whereas the government, first of all, it didn't provide the police with enough information. So you had a lot of very angry truckers who didn't know what was going on and were angry with the police because they didn't know what was going on. And you can understand that. Finally, the government did get the army in to do tests so that these people could go. Hang on, I'm trying to find that video again, that page again. Yeah, so here we have a situation where, one trucker's getting very angry, and then this is the news that then when they tested negative, they could go. And the government did get the stuff out, but it took a while, because that's what governments do. They move slowly. And yeah, they were caught wrong-footed as well. But this raises an interesting conundrum, which cropped up later. When I made my first video, all I knew about at the time was that Sikh Gurdwara and the fact that the lorries were stranded and the fact that the French government had suddenly stopped people from coming from the UK. And then I saw many articles later on saying that the government should have done better, and that they were a set of total incompetence, and that in many cases they were trying to get credit for sorting it out when they had done no such thing. It was the charities and the local community groups that had done it. However, that's the point we should be thinking of. It raises the question, how much is government responsibility? You see, I remember, this was years ago probably, and I couldn't find it on the web, using the wrong keywords, obviously. But what it was this. It was a Friday afternoon, and I think it was New York, and a lot of Orthodox Jews were driving from their places of work out to where they lived in the far suburbs. And then there was this tremendous jam on a highway, and it wasn't going to be cleared before nightfall, and that meant that these Orthodox Jews were stuck in their cars when they weren't supposed to be driving on the Sabbath. And what happened was, various Jewish communities along the route, they all got together and they managed to get these guys the messages that they would look after them. So these people drove their cars into the side of the road and parked them there, and then got out in various places and were taken to houses of Orthodox Jews on the route along, and there they stayed for the Sabbath. There was no question of the government being involved in that. These people were looked after by local community groups. And nobody said it was a disgrace. I think the only thing that the government involvement was, I believe that the police were told not to give parking tickets or tow away any of these cars that were parked at the side of the road until the Saturday night, when their owners could come and reclaim them. I know that this lorry thing was a different situation, because what happened as a result of government action. Although it didn't really happen as a result of British government action, it was high-level government action. You could say it was the result of Brexit, if you want to be mean about it. And you could say that the government might be a little more responsible for it. But nevertheless, instead of taking joy in the communal effort to help these lorry drivers, there's been a whole avalanche of complaints about the government not doing enough. And the other thing was that it didn't seem to occur to the government to ask for help from volunteer organisations, did it? I didn't hear any of the ministers saying, we have a situation here, the lorry drivers are stranded, who can help, who can provide food, who can bring soap and towels, bowls of water, anything. Nobody seemed to think in those terms. What can volunteer organisations do? Now, the volunteer organisations themselves got themselves into action. But the government were supposed to be responsible for everything. And I don't know, maybe they were embarrassed, or it didn't even occur to them to say, volunteer organisations, get working. You're small, you're lighter on your feet. We'll get the army out to do the test. But meanwhile, do what you can, because these people are stranded in your territory. It didn't seem to occur to them to do that, because we are in the habit now of thinking that the government should be responsible for everything. And indeed, the government seems to think that too. And it can't be. There is no way the government can deal with everything. And perhaps we should start thinking along those lines in the future. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the Graniopteryx design or Granbow with a firearm, or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.graniopteryx.com, and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share, share, share.